evening and welcome to the Wednesday Night Live from your New Mexico Philharmonic. Tonight, we're dedicating our show to double reed instruments. So we have two exceptional musicians, Amanda Talley and Ron Bronitsky. We'll start by watching Amanda perform the first movement from Britten's Six Metamorphoses for solo oboe. Let's watch that. And here's my first guest for tonight's show, our oboist from the New Mexico Philharmonic, Amanda Talley. Good evening, Amanda.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for participating in our show. You know that Britten is such an amazing piece. I love that because I've heard that piece all my life. Having a brother, a bigger, older brother as an oboist, you know, he was constantly performing and studying that piece. So it was so nice to hear it again, and you did such a beautiful job with that first movement from the Six Metamorphoses for oboe, solo oboe. You know, quite a classic piece for oboists, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's very popular for all ages, really, from the student level to professional. It really works in any space-time venue.
How did you decide to become an oboist, Amanda? Tell us from your childhood. I mean, what inspired you to choose the oboe?
Oh gosh, great question. I started piano when I was 3. And when I was 9, I lived in Ohio. So we started band much earlier than other states. And yeah, no one else wanted to play the oboe in the school. So I decided that I would do it because no one else would. And per the usual parental advisement, my father said, well, if you play the oboe, you might get a scholarship to go to school someday. So unbeknownst to him, I ended up sticking with it, which I don't know if he would have chosen the same instrument for me if he knew I was going to do it for a career. But
you know, it's understandable because the oboe is listed in the Guinness Book of Records as one of the most difficult instruments of all. It's the oboe and the French horn.
They are.
Yes. So I guess a lot of people stay away from the oboe. And by the way, did it get you scholarships? I probably did, right?
You know, it did. I was fortunate enough to have 2 full rides to music school. So it did, but I did major in it as well. I'm not sure if I majored in something else, if it would have been the same. But yes, I was very fortunate in that department.
So you went to Florida State for your bachelor's, and then you got your master's from Southern Methodist University in Dallas.
Yes, that's correct.
these are great schools, and I bet you had wonderful teachers. I mean, how much does the role of a teacher influence? Of course, it does, I mean, but some teachers inspire you more than others. Were your teachers orchestral musicians? Did they play solo? Did they direct you in a certain way or another?
Yes, I was very lucky in the teacher department. My undergraduate professor, Dr. Eric Olson, is a fabulous mentor. I'm still in touch with him, of course, 10 plus years later at this point. He just is a remarkably inspiring human, and there was always a humanistic layer of his teaching. So, of course, he wanted us to all work very hard and practice as if our life depended on it, which of course it did. He said that all the time. But also he just raises, in quote, good human beings as well. I have so many wonderful friends from my oboe studio that are lifelong friends. And so I feel like, and then going to Aaron Hannigan, my master's teacher, who is principal oboe of the Dallas Symphony, then I just had the luxury, of hearing the DSO every week. And so hearing her play, and I'd go to the rehearsals as well, just to sit and listen to Yop, who's in New York now, of course. And I did end up playing under him a couple times, including Mahler 6, which was terrifying for me as a kid. I had to sight read it at one of their performances because their English horn player was out for the evening, and I was terrified. So
well, it is an amazing orchestra. I did have the opportunity to conduct them a few times. Last time I did Also sprach Zarathustra with them, and they sounded just amazing. Well, speaking of amazing, let's go to your next video, which is from a composer from Albuquerque, Molly O'Meara. Can you tell us a little bit about the next piece we're going to watch?
Absolutely. So Molly O'Meara is a professional musician in Albuquerque. She's retired at this point. Also an oboist, pianist, vocalist, and she writes a lot of music for our community ensembles around Albuquerque, the community bands, things like that, lots of chamber music. And she wrote a few pieces for oboe, being an oboist herself. And I just wanted to give a little clip of one of her pieces called Night Music. It's for oboe and piano. And perhaps you can tell by her name, Molly O'Meara, she takes great pride in her heritage as an Irish woman, and all of her music has a pretty strong Celtic theme underneath it. And I just wanted to put out some of these pieces because I don't think they've actually been performed yet, and it's something I'd really like to build on and do something for a community with her music. So I was happy to showcase even 30 seconds of Molly's oboe.
That's a great idea. Let's watch that.
Great.
Well, that was so beautiful. I'm looking forward to having a chance to meet Molly one of these days in Albuquerque.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Of course. Yeah, happy to promote some local musicians for sure.
But Amanda, we were talking about your previous teachers, and the reason also I asked is that you are one of the most versatile musicians in the New Mexico Philharmonic. You play first oboe, you play second oboe, you play the English horn, and I mean, for you, everything seems quite easy, so I'm quite impressed with your performance. And well, I guess this is something that you love to do. You're not really attached to one row or another specifically.
Thanks. That means a lot. I do. I love all three chairs. I love sitting next to our principal, Kevin. We have a blast back there, probably too much fun sometimes. And the English horn definitely holds a special place for me. I fell in love with it in my early years as a student in grade school. I remember the first time I heard the English horn. I remember that moment in a concert, and that has stuck with me my entire career. And yeah, of course, I love playing principal. I mean, that program we did in January before COVID was just a dream
the
program.
Dvorak and Beethoven, yes.
I was just thrilled to be able to do that. So yeah, I really am happy to be sitting anywhere. It makes it hard for reed making because I'm always like, oh, which am I making, a second oboe reed or a first oboe reed? You know, they're so different, but I am happy to do it all for sure.
Exactly. So our audience understands the oboe players, they have to make their own reeds, and they need a special cane that only comes from certain parts of the world. And they spend just as much time making reeds as they spend practicing their own instruments. So it's a heavy burden for all of you guys, right?
Yes. Perhaps making reeds more than I practice, if I'm being honest. It's very time consuming.
But the English horn really is a special instrument, such a beautiful, mellow, deep sound. Yes. And the next video we're going to watch from Amanda, she will be playing the English horn in a piece originally composed for flute. Tell us why you chose the Telemann Fantasy for flute to play in the English horn.
Yes, so I love the Telemann flute fantasies. This particular, I believe there are 6. No, 12. I'm sorry, there are 12 in this particular collection. And although I am not a flutist, I just love them so much that in times where I'm doing my own practicing or studies, they're definitely a go-to piece for me to stay in shape on, but ultimately just to enjoy, to be able to have something to play on my own that I love so much. And you know, during COVID, it's not always easy to find the motivation to, continue to stay in shape, especially as an oboist. That means I have to have good reeds in order to stay in shape. So I'm working so hard without the joy of performing for our audiences, which of course is my favorite thing in the world. So yeah, I even though they're not written for English horn, I love to just play through them. They're perhaps harder for the English horn because they're not written for the instrument itself. So it keeps me in good shape.
Imagine.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Amanda, so much for sharing some of your trajectory and your experience. This is Amanda Talley, oboist in English horn from our New Mexico Philharmonic. Thank you. It was a pleasure to talk to you. Let's enjoy your next video.
Thanks very much.
And my next guest is someone really amazing. He's a medical doctor, he's a bassoonist, he's a singer, he does all of these wonderful things. So I'm very happy to introduce to you tonight, Ron Bronitsky. Good evening, Ron.
Good evening, Roberto.
Welcome back to the Wednesday Night Live. The first time you were joining us as a medical doctor, part of our medical committee,
Right.
For COVID-19. And now we're here to talk about music, most of all.
Wonderful. Yeah, much better, much better.
So you're a native of Albuquerque, you were educated in a public school system, and that's where you had your first encounter with music. Was it straight away with the bassoon, or did you learn other instruments before?
No, I started with the clarinet when I was 9 years old, and there was a man here who all of Albuquerque musicians know named K. Lloyd Higgins. And he gave me clarinet lessons, and then I played in his band and was a soloist there. And then I played clarinet through junior high, and then when I hit high school, they said, "We need a bassoon. You want to play?" And I said, "Well, I'm ready for a change." So I started playing bassoon in high school.
Amazing. And when did you decide not to become a full-time professional musician, but to go to medical school?
Well, when I heard really good musicians, I realized, yeah, I can play, but I certainly wasn't at that caliber. And I took applied bassoon at University of New Mexico, and Artemis Edwards was my teacher. And he told me, he said, "Ron, you'd be really good if you practiced." And I was not one of the best practicers. So I realized medicine was a nice alternative. Plus my father was a physician, and so I was exposed to medicine, and I think it was the right course for me to take.
And we had previously an oboist in the show, Amanda Talley. So the show tonight is dedicated to double reed instruments, oboe and bassoon. And for bassoonists is almost as difficult as the oboist, where you have to make your own reeds, right?
Right. Although I cheat a little bit, and Stephanie Shabilsk will be the first one to tell you that. Back in college, Artemis switched us to a plastic reed. And I still have plastic reeds from college that are usable for the bassoon. And bassoonists are usually snobs about plastic reeds, but I have been told that if somebody's not looking at me, they can't tell that I'm playing on a plastic reed. So that's good, but it is somewhat frowned on. But I don't have the time or the diligence to craft my own reeds.
That's really quite time consuming, I assume. Now, you belong to a very interesting group called the Bosque Bassoon Band. Tell us about the Bosque Bassoon Band.
Well, it's a great organization of all bassoons. It was started about 14 or 15 years ago by Stephanie Shabilska, the first bassoonist with the Mexico Philharmonic. And it's just a group of both professional and non-professional bassoonists who get together and rehearse maybe once or twice a month or so, at least before the pandemic. And then we would perform in various venues and have a yearly recital. And it's a lot of fun, and everybody enjoys it so much. We're all comrades, and some of the bassoonists in there are absolutely fabulous bassoonists. And then there's some of them like me that can play and get through. And the blend together is a lot of fun.
Well, this is such a treat. Kudos to Stephanie, our principal bassoonist from the New Mexico Philharmonic, and to all of you guys. Let's watch the Bosque Bassoon Band perform an excerpt from Rossini's William Tell Overture. Overture is already in its original form, such a fun and beautiful piece, but hearing it with 10 bassoons is even more exciting and even more funny than the original.
Yeah, definitely.
So you have bassoons playing different voices. You also have the contrabassoon, right? Which is, it's such a special instrument. It's the lowest instrument in the orchestra, in the range of the orchestra.
Right.
And sometimes people even have difficult identifying, the notes that the contrabassoon playing. So low and so deep are these notes, right?
So does the contrabassoonist. They don't know what they're playing either half the time.
Have you ever played the contrabassoon? Do you enjoy it?
I did play it when I was living in Nashville with the Nashville Symphony. They needed a contrabassoonist, and I'd never played. And the first bassoonist, Cynthia Estill, gave me a lesson and said, "Okay, we need you to play." I think it was Haydn's Creation that I played the contrabassoon, and one other piece that I can't quite remember. But yeah, it was a lot of fun to play. But I haven't really played it since. I leave that to the true contrabassoonists.
Now, the next piece we're going to watch it's called the Harmonica Fagotte. Tell us a little bit about the Harmonica Fagotte.
Well, it's actually a piece that was arranged for the Bosque Bassoon Band by Dan Davis, who is Stephanie's husband. And he took a piece by Mozart that was written for glass harmonica, which was quite popular back in the 1700s, and arranged it for the bassoons. Daniel has been listening to our group for a long time and really knows how to bring out the flavors and the tones of the bassoons, and is able to really use the harmony to make such wonderful sounds. I think this harmony fagotti or fagotti harmonica, it will be it's just beautiful. It sounds terrific together. So yeah, it was a good thing.
Let's watch that now. Harmonica Fagotte. Quite a fascinating work, and it's truly innovative in the way he just has this, I love the mix of the bassoon instruments and, the different colors you can get from this instrument. It's fascinating.
Yes, absolutely. It has that ability to produce sounds that no, I don't think any other instrument can do that.
Well, no wonder Stravinsky chose the bassoon for the opening of his most important work of all, which is The Rite of Spring, which starts with this beautiful solo bassoon, from the very high note. And from there, he creates this masterpiece, because, the bassoon has such a special quality.
Yeah, I think people didn't realize what the instrument was. Some people thought it was a flute. I think it starts out on a high C, which is quite high for the bassoon. And didn't the initial performance cause some sort of riot in the Colosseum?
Now, Ron, you come from a tradition of having not only music in your family, your family are also, they've been for a long time great supporters of music in New Mexico, starting with the New Mexico Symphony, and you're continuing this tradition of supporting, of sponsoring the New Mexico Philharmonic, for which we're really grateful. Tell us about the importance of staying connected with music and also be able to support the orchestra as your family has done.
Well, obviously, it's very deep with me, with my connection with my mother and father. I mean, I don't think they missed a single performance, and it really started even back before the New Mexico Symphony. I think it was called the Albuquerque Civic Symphony, which was back in the late 50s. And that's my connection to the Philharmonic, is through my parents. And I think it's a tribute to them as well as me. I mean, I cannot live without classical music. And it is such a wonderful organization. And the performances before the pandemic, you close your eyes and you would not be able to tell if it was the New Mexico Philharmonic or the New York Philharmonic. The quality and the beauty that comes from that is such an integral part of my life that I love supporting it. Absolutely.
Well, we so much appreciate that. And it's so refreshing to hear that, I mean, the importance of live performance, especially live symphonic music. I mean, for a year, we've been, listening to music through our wonderful home theaters and sound systems at home, but nothing like real live music. So I'm so glad to hear that. And, it's so important to have people like yourself and your parents who are music lovers and who are big supporters in our community and, in the entire country of the United States and all over the world for that matter. We're very grateful that you help us keep it alive and going, because it's such an amazing experience to be able to, to really enjoy classical music. Now, speaking of classical music, going back, you mentioned that one of your favorite pieces to perform was the Saint-Saëns bassoon sonata for bassoon and piano. Tell us a little bit about this piece. Why do you love it so much?
Well, it is such a lyrical piece, and it really floats with the piano, and the whole beginning kind of draws you in as this beautiful lilting melody. And then he's able to use the bassoon in all of its glory, from lyrical sounds to then rapid performances and the ability to play quickly. And it just has a wonderful beginning, middle, and end to it. Technically a bit hard. I did actually have to practice when I performed that back in Nashville with a recital that I did with one of my friends. But it just draws you in from the very beginning, and you can close your eyes and enjoy it. It is truly a wonderful work on which, and what's nice, it's both piano and bassoon. It's not a piano accompaniment. Saint-Saëns wrote this for two performers, and it really is a forte of him doing that.
Well, we're going to watch this beautiful video of a wonderful performance of the Saint-Saëns bassoon sonata with the piano accompaniment. And with that, we'll say goodbye. Thank you so much, Ron Bronitsky, for participating in our Wednesday Night Live. Thank you for participating vividly in our community, supporting our New Mexico Philharmonic. Hope to see you again soon.
It was my pleasure.
So stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you soon.
I hope
Good night,
so.
everyone.